Let's do this.
Well, it's official. Kamala's got a man problem. But assistant coach Walls, he's in denial. He's been out wooing white dudes and says, there's no problem. So let's talk to a man with no problems, Hulk Hogan. How you doing, Hulk?
I'm great, brother. How are you today?
I'm doing great now that you're in town. Tell me about being a man. The Democrats can't really figure it out. I don't know what's going on. What's the truth?
Well, the way it goes, brothers, in the Bible, it says, listen to where people are speaking from, and you'll know exactly who they are. So when they say that Kid Rock and Hulk Hogan and stuff like that doesn't make Trump one with the people or a blue-collar worker, if you listen to where people are speaking from and you put Buttigieg up there, Trump definitely wouldn't be a man of the people. That's how it really is, brother. But by the way, just to correct you, Jesse Waters,
yeah,
I know about Waters and your world and all that stuff. Well, this is Trumpomania, and this is his country, brother.
All right, I'll give it to him just for this show, but not after that. I'm going to be taking it back. We saw you ripping your shirt off at the RNC. You know, they've been saying that men that lift weights are fascists. Can you just kind of remind Democrats, because they didn't used to be like this, can you remind Democrats what American men are made of?
Well, brother, at the end of the day, you know, there's a chain of command, our Lord and Savior, the wife and the husband and the kids. And at the end of the day, the mother is to nourish, but the man is to protect, serve, and provide. So at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, is being a real man, being a real American, and getting this country and making it not how it used to be, but how it should be, brother.
When you knew Donald Trump back in the day, you guys were running around the country at events, and he was all in your business out there in the ring. And tell me a little bit about Donald Trump when you first met him.
Well, when I first met him, we rented Trump Plaza for WrestleMania 4 and 5. He was at the event from the beginning to the end, and I learned a lot from him, brother, how he handled special kids, how he would talk with the Make-A-Wish kids, and not just give a moment of his time with them. He would spend plenty of time with them, touch them, talk to them, make them feel very comfortable. He's a good man all the way around, brother. He's a good person and a real American.
Your patriotism's up there with pretty much, I don't know, I can't even compare it. What made you fall in love with this country?
Well, I grew up in South Tampa, and from very humble beginnings. You know, my mom was a housewife, my dad worked construction, but I really never knew where we were at on the food chain as far as our economic ladder. And so once I got out from under, you know, going to high school and college, I got into professional wrestling and made my way. And at the end of the day, this was the land of opportunity for me, because instead of once a month having a small little minute steak to eat, I told myself I never wanted to live like that. I wanted to make my way and make my life. And this country gave me that opportunity. So the American dream is what this country's all about. And Donald Trump represents that, brother.
Now, Kamala Harris is out there eating steaks, slinging beers with Stephen Colbert. I don't know if her drinking beer is going to really change votes. Do you?
Well, at the end of the day, when I hear the word salad over and over, and she won't even answer a question from Brett Baer, she won't even say how many people have come across the border, you know, during her administration. Everything is like that with them. They won't answer the questions. They won't step up to the plate, and they won't even let the American people know what their plan is. So at the end of the day, if you want more of the same, you go down that route. But if you want America the way it should be, you vote for Donald Trump.
All right. And a real American beer. You got to go get it. You got to drink it. That's what Hulk is here about. We love it. Real American beer. You look at it on his T-shirt. Hulkamania, we love you. We love everything about you. Thanks for coming on Jesse Waters Primetime. It's still my world, but this is Trump's country. Click here to subscribe to the...
Good stuff. I couldn't think of any better way to start off this show here. Episode number 87, I believe, with Hulk Hogan. We got the dream team on, what was it, August 23rd. We got the dream team, Kennedy and Trump. We got unity. Unity is here. The unity is real. Boom and boom. But that's not, I mean, it's not just about those two guys, and that's what I've learned from writing this book is there is a lot more to it because just trying to focus on the path of Kennedy and Trump to the White House has been difficult. It's been a big challenge. I'm just going to check my audio for a second. Seems okay. It always seems okay on my phone, but then I go back and listen to it later and it's not. But this is not just about Kennedy and Trump. And even the book cannot just be about Kennedy and Trump because you do have a lot of other key players. Obviously, you have Vance. You have J.D. Vance, the vice president, who is going out there almost every day, doing rallies, giving speeches, doing town halls, doing everything that he possibly can to let the people get to know who he is. And we got a little taste of that, of who Kamala is. And definitely, I'm looking forward to playing that. But I thought there was no better way to start this off with the champion of the World Wrestling Federation, the real world heavyweight champion, Hulk Hogan. And the debate will go on. Is it Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair? Is it RFK Jr. versus Donald J. Trump? Well, you don't have to choose now. They're on the same team. You got Trump, Kennedy, Musk, Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, Elon, or Tucker Carlson, and you could go on and on and on. Even some that may not be as vocal or may not, be doing it's going out to Trump's rallies, but even someone that I follow, Kirk Cameron, on a spiritual journey, on a spiritual level, even he kind of, and he will have the same people on. He will have people that worked for Trump. He's friends with Ben Carson. He's had one of the Fox News contributors on lately too. He gets asked about President Trump. He was on Glenn Beck's show, and I do not like Glenn Beck, but um, I thought Kirk Cameron did very well on that show too. But it is this just there's a lot of the same people that you would expect to be on this, at least I would expect to be on Trump's side or kind of lean with Trump, including RFK Jr., Elon Musk, all these guys that at some point weren't too crazy about Trump. And it's the more you get to know him, the more they got to know him. You can see what happens and see what changes. Did they drink the Kool-Aid? Or is this real? Is this really about making America great again and again and again and again? But you have some very good people here. But to get Kennedy, to me, that was Christmas. That was Christmas come early, pretty much. As far as the superficial gifts, right? Because we know Christmas is always and always will be about Jesus Christ. But you know what I'm saying. It was a great gift. It was a great gift to see Kennedy and Trump shake hands. It was a perfect ending to the book that I'm writing, following their journey. But it's not the end. There's still more. Early voting has started in several states, and this will continue on. And hopefully, we won't have to wait 3, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks to know who won. I'm hoping this early voting thing, if they keep telling me this is a good thing, the early voting thing is good. It's going to help with the voter fraud and it's going to help with everything. We'll see what happens. I guess in 2020 they had over 150,000 people in one state. I think it was Wisconsin or Georgia. They did early day voting, and those numbers are rising. You're going to see that a lot in these states. That's what we're being told. So we'll see what happens there. But something very strange is happening with Kamala Harris and the campaign. I mean, stranger than it already was. It was weird from the very get go. It was weird from 2018, 2019, when she ran against Joe Biden and then all of a sudden ends up on Biden's team. So let me cut to that. But that was great by Hulk Hogan. I mean, you can't go wrong with Hulk Hogan. I just, and that just replayed that very recently. But let's go and look at Kamala Harris. There'll be an ad. There's always an ad. And let's make sure this is where it needs to be. All right, can't really tell. Let's do it.
the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a
which
number?
is-
Do you
but-
think it's
but,
1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system
Uh-oh.
that needs to be repaired.
So your
And-
Homeland Security Secretary said that
Well, no,
85%
but
of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have a
I'm-
we have
It's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people
that
have been
needs to be-
released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get you the
She's
question. I
speaking,
promise.
Brett.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called
And-
the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the elite. Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding,
But
please?
here- but this-
you have to let me finish.
You
please.
You have
the
to let
White
me
House
finish.
and the
She's
House and-
she's doing talking points. She's trying to finish her talking points. She's not trying to answer the questions. I'm sure you already understand that.
in the Senate,
I'm
and
in
they
the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
responding
I'm in the middle
to
of-
the point you raised.
I'm in the middle of my canned response. She's trying to recite the script and he's messing it up. He's not following the script. She doesn't like it. I wonder what those two books are there in the middle next to that fake plant.
He's saying.
Okay.
And I'd like to finish.
I'd like to. That's what she said.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress,
Yeah, come on,
to
bro.
actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border
Oh.
agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done
Yes, ma'am.
as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted
She's just talking point after talking point after talking point. That's all we're getting here. That's it. Not answering the question.
trafficking of drugs,
Six-
guns, and human beings. And
six
Donald Trump,
Democrats,
but let me just finish.
six-
Look, this is only 26 minutes, 27 minutes here. Look at the way that they grill Trump and what he does and how he goes out there night after night after night. And there's a great interview that I would like to play later on, maybe more on the financial
Donald
side.
Voted against that bill.
About terrorists, but you can just, I mean, she's just not, and she just wants to say her stuff, get her points. She doesn't want a conversation. Then later on, you're going to hear her say, She wants to have a conversation. She can't have a conversation with this guy. And uh, I think it was Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr. who will bring up the point later on. If she can't debate with him, if she can't have a conversation with him, if she can't answer questions to Brett Baer, how is she going to do this sitting on the other side of people like Putin? How are you going to do that sitting on the other side of people like Xi? It's no, they're not, and she's not worried about that because she's going to do what Biden did. Biden just didn't talk to him, didn't talk to Putin. So
learned about that bill and told them to kill it.
see, it's all about Trump. I'm going to go back a little bit here because it is all about Trump. She wants to just, you're going to see that it's like 27 minutes of just going all back to Trump, acting like Trump is the president. He's still the president, which he is. He should be. We should consider him that, but they're even acting like that. They're even, it's all about, well, we're going to hear a lot about turning the page, and Brett Baer's going to look at her and say, turning the page to what? Because they're still trying to turn the page from what Trump did. They're trying to undo it. The page keeps flipping back to the pages of Donald J. Trump, the greatest president since George Washington.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
Six Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it.
How does she?
Because he preferred to run on.
How does she know they told him? He told them to kill it. First of all, and if that's true, he has explained his side of why he does not like that bill. But in the end, these people have to make the choices for themselves. They're not voting just for Donald Trump, of how Donald Trump wants them to. Maybe they do have their own minds, but whatever it is, that is their choice. So it's a man's choice. It's a woman's choice. So vote the way you want to. That should go for our congressmen too and congresswomen.
On a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people.
It's more talking points. You can see even with the hand gesture, it's all just focus. Okay, make sure you get your point out. It's all it is. It's not about reality. And people see through this. This just looks like 2016 all over again.
People want to have, and what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue.
I hear you.
But actually,
and everything she's accusing Trump of, she's doing.
Is focused on fixing
Six
it.
Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the six Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases.
What do you think, Brett?
There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred.
Under your watch.
So that is true. It is also true.
Here we go.
That
it's
if a
Trump's
border
fault.
security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months.
9 months ago, President Trump was not in office, unfortunately. And even if he was, he wouldn't be able to dictate what Congress does or does not do. That's part of the checks and balance. But you have a president who can veto everything in there right now. But this is the bill they want, because this is not a bill about getting rid of illegals. This is not a border bill. This is a bill to legalize these people that are not here These people, it's here to legalize the people that are not here legally. And she knows that. You can see it in the face, in the fortunes.
That we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election.
She just pretty much said exactly what she's doing. Again, she's accusing Trump of exactly what she is doing to the public, and it's sad. It's hard for me to believe people are buying it. I don't know. I know after seeing what we saw in 2020, you have to expect they're going to pull out everything. If they pulled stuff out then, they're probably going to pull out more now, coming up here in 2024. So as we go back and forth with the voter fraud and the early voting, I'm very curious about the early voting. Of course, I mean, he's grilling her on the biggest issue we have right now, which is our border. Not just the border, our southern border, but letting all of these people in, flying them in, busing them in. How does this happen without our government knowing? None of this can happen. See, the problem is, as you probably already know, she's acting like only Congress can do it. And she's going to continue to say that. Only Congress can do it. Only Congress can do it. Even though Trump did it. He did it. He built the wall. He bypassed Congress for something like this. He knew how to use the rules and the Constitution to get the job done. That's not what they want. And it's weird because you would think that they would want to have the safest border so they could brag about having the safest border and tell Trump to go back to his home and get ready for his court cases because we have secured this border. It's weird that they're not doing it, and so it really shows how deep this goes. What the goal is. If the goal was to secure the border, they would have it. They would do it. They would get it done, just like they've gotten other things done. But Brett Baer is going to talk about how not really her, but Biden, but they supposed to be tied at the hip. They're brother and sisters. They're basically twins. They're basically Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito in the movie Twins. But he's going to talk about that, like all the things that this is under your watch. And these are the things that she has not been grilled on yet. So it's good. It's good for her. It's good for her to hear this. It's good for her to take this. She should have done this earlier. It's smart for the campaign now that early voting has already started, because people that have cast their votes already and then watch this. And this happens often. I heard about this during Barack Obama. I heard about this, during Bush, and where they just made the wrong choice. If they could take that vote back, they would. And I've heard that about Trump too. People said that about Trump. They would take their vote back if they could. But let's get back to it. I'm curious to see what she has to say. This is actually the only interview that I can really sit through and watch. It's that good to me.
Because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration.
Yeah.
I will let one of the mothers.
Yeah, he's saying it was an early thing that they did we all saw it. We saw the video of Joe Biden sitting there with a bunch of folders and he's signing things, and every one of those things that he's signing is undoing all of the good things that Trump did for this country right there. So if he has the power for the executive orders on day one to sit there and undo all the stuff that President Trump did, wouldn't he have that same power to sit there and maybe do the same things that President Trump did, or to redo them and then take credit for them? But no, because it's not about this country for them. It is about Trump. They want to get Trump for whatever reason. And too many people see that. They see through that. And it doesn't matter what they do. It's done. The people know. We see it. And as long as we keep that history going to make sure that people don't forget what happened here in 2024, how powerful this election year was, all of the things that happened with Kennedy and Trump at the center of this story, to me, is such a great story. Such a great story. I look forward to writing it, and I know there's going to be a lot of books written about that. If there should be, mine should not be.
Talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss.
See, she's saying the same thing. She's not answering the question. And I love that Brett Barr, all he can do is try, like a prosecutor, or a defense lawyer. You just try to keep asking them the question that you want them to answer. They keep doing it. They tried this with Trump too, but it was a different thing because Trump could actually call out the BS of their question and then tell them what the real question was. And she's trying to kind of do that too. She's trying to say, well, that's not the real question that we should be asking here. And then she's going to give you, her version of the bigger question, which is, guess what? About Trump. It's not about the country. So what are they going to do if they ever do get Trump out of the picture? I mean, they've done everything to him. What more could they possibly do but just rehash the same programs that they have tried to get President Trump out? What could they possibly have left that they have not tried? What could they possibly have left that may work to get Trump to never become president? What else do they have left? Because time is running out. There's not much time. There really isn't. All right. More of Kamala.
Loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening.
I want to go back a little bit. That's good. That's good.
Loss.
Sorry for her loss.
I'm so sorry for her loss. Sincerely.
Sorry for her loss, but then that's it. Okay. But now we got to move on.
But let's talk about
something else.
What is happening right now with.
As if that isn't what is happening right now. That is exactly what is happening right now. I mean, what happened to those 3 girls, it's happened to other people too. It hasn't stopped. They haven't fixed that problem. So why is she running from it? Why isn't she saying, this is what we did to make sure things like that do not happen? That's the difference between Trump and between Harris and Biden and these fake Democrats. They're not even real Democrats. A real Democrat, not this guy, Kennedy. That is a real Democrat. So they're not even hiding it. But they're not focused on the real problem right now. It's all about getting Trump. And that's sad. That's really sad.
With an individual who does not want to participate in solutions.
It isn't about these illegals that are coming through here. It is about the individual, and the individual's name, Donald J. Trump. Is that the president you want? She's going to spend 4 years talking about Trump instead of getting things done? It's crazy.
Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all fairness,
she wants to talk about that, but she doesn't want to answer his question. He's like, hey, do you want to answer the question? Do you want to talk about that? What they said? This happened in those first early days when they were telling us that the border was fine. There was nothing. There was no problem with the border. After they undid all the stuff that President Trump did. And they tell us the border's fine. You have 3 cases here. There's 3 that we know about, 3 that are more mainstream. There's probably a lot more too. And there's probably other ones that we don't even know about, that maybe Border Patrol people on the border don't even know about. There were like, how many kids were missing that crossed our border. We have kids missing in this country here. Now we have kids coming into the country and they go missing too. I mean, this is a big, big deal. And of course, she wants to run from it. She has no choice to. What is she going to do? Say, oh, yeah, sorry, we're going to do better this time. No, she has to avoid that at all costs. And the problem is people want to hear it. They want to hear, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have undid everything that Trump did. And we're going to put some of those policies back because those policies work. They can't do it now. They may try to do it, if they get in, if they get back in, but they're so focused on just saying, well, Trump is tying our hands. We can't do anything because Trump ties our hands. When the Democrats had everything in 2020. They had the House, they had the Senate, and they had the president, the fake president, Joe Biden. They had no excuse of why they couldn't get any of this stuff done. Everything was all about blaming Trump. And then at least in that first year, and all the stuff that Trump had already done, it would take a while to undo some of those things. So they could still take credit in those early years, in those early days, for things that President Trump did and say, well, this happened under our watch, even though these were things that Trump started. But the problem is then they got rid of them. So if they would have kept him, they could have kept on taking credit. The country may be in a good spot, and things may be a lot different. But look at how far we have come. From John F. Kennedy's murder, even before that, but really, I mean, that just seemed like a big turning point there. Like the world should have probably ended right there when that happened. And it kept going on. And then we saw 9/11. I mean, you could go to other things too, but just as, like the whole Oklahoma City bombing, but just sticking to the big things, the three big ones that I see, John F. Kennedy. Then you have obviously 9/11, which Iraq, you have to kind of, Iraq and Afghanistan, that's all, to me, that's all still tied into that 9/11 big crisis here. And then you have Trump. Where they've done everything that they can to pretty much let us know that whatever happened with JFK and what happened on September 11th, it's the same cast of characters that are going after Trump. That's the way I see it.
I feel awful for what she and her family
She
have
feels
experienced.
terrible.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
That's a good one.
You see this plastic tote right here? Well, I'm going to show you something right now.
That's a great question.
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before.
So what would be the answer?
Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear. I think we all are about that. I have no pride.
Can't go back.
When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've
always
had
been
a
a
broken
crisis.
immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before.
But if you look at those 4 years under Trump, how do you say that with a straight face? How do you compare the 4 years under Trump compared to the crisis before him and the crisis after him? Look at the numbers. Look at the stats.
Let's all be honest about that.
Yeah.
I have no pride in saying that this is a
You have no-
perfect
you have no
immigration system.
shame.
I've been clear. I think we all are. That it needs to be fixed. We need.
It needs to be fixed, and they couldn't get it. They couldn't get it fixed in the last 4 years, but now that she's going to fix it now. No. Trump had it fixed. All they had to do was not mess with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they
She
will
was just down at the border for the first time in 3 years.
tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious.
How's she going to say that this is like the big crisis? This is a big thing for her. It's not a big thing for her. She's pandering to it because it's a big thing for this country, but it's not a big deal for her. If it was, it wouldn't have taken her 3 years to get back to the border.
Serious journalists, they will tell you we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted.
We need more judges. No, just close. If you close the border, you don't need more judges. Close the border. Let the judges that we have do what they do. And let's get some. I'm all in favor for more judges. But if you're bringing more people in that the judges can handle, that doesn't make sense.
They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well, and Trump has also said that too. Like in the long term, yeah, the Congress is going to have to jump on the Trump train to get this done. But he wasn't going to wait for him. He did what he had to do to secure our borders. They can't have it both ways. They can't sit there and say that we should still be getting groped by the TSA, or we should still go through these scanners now at the TSA. We can't have bottled water on a plane, right? We can't have all of that, but they can just let people just walk in through this country, and they don't know if they're terrorists. They don't know who they are, and we're all supposed to just turn a blind eye. And the problem is people have been doing that for years. And she's right, well before Trump. The problem is Trump actually started doing something about it and showed us you don't have to throw your hands up and say, we can't do anything about the border. Trump did something, and it worked. You can't just throw up your hands and say, Federal Reserve's got it. We can't do anything about our currency. Can't do anything about the money. Trump did something about it. We can't throw up our hands and just say, well, the New World Order is here. The global government is coming in. Deal with it. It is the future, and that's it. Trump did something about that too. It was about making this country great, because RFK Jr. asked Trump when they joined forces, what you want a legacy, what you talk about, you want to bring it back. Where do you want to bring it back to? Where do you want to bring this country back to? And Trump told Kennedy he wants to bring this country back to the days of his uncle, to President John F. Kennedy, to those days. They want to go back there. Want to restart that, go back there and finish the job of what President Kennedy was doing, what the policies were, what worked, what didn't work, the way that Kennedy handled himself as a president. Trump wants to go back there. Well, you got somebody who was there with President John F. Kennedy, who was in the White House. He was young. He was a young man. He was a young boy, but he was there, RFK Jr. So now you have the right focus here. Something went very wrong there. And hopefully then that will kind of help us get more resolution on September 11th and on other things. But to me, those are the two big things. And now that you had what happened with Trump, it woke up a lot of people and really made them see, like, this is real. They're really going after this guy. They're vilifying this guy, and this is not right. And the more people you have and had and will have that will stand up for Trump. And I think after this election, I think in 2025, 2026, I think Trump will get even bigger numbers. I think a lot of more people will come to see, yeah, he is the right choice. He is the best for this country. He's the president that we need right now, and the president that we want. And that is all I'm going to say about that rant.
How this system works.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90 plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here.
90.
There's other things to talk about, but you frequently were talking.
He said there were 90 executive orders that were rescinded, and a lot of those were about the border. It's so clear, and I'm glad that he brought it up. Even he's got to kind of brush over it. Yeah, we said it. We mentioned it. We grilled her. She didn't give us an answer. Moving on. But that's a huge, huge point right there. This is why she didn't want to debate President Trump on Fox News, because he would have been one of the moderators. I think, I forget the other lady's name, but there was another lady who would have also been, but he would have been one of the actual moderators. It was scheduled, or Trump agreed to it. Fox News agreed to it back in August of 2024. Kamala Harris didn't. The proposed date was September 4th, 2024. On August 19th, 2024, Kamala Harris came out and it was made known that she was not going to debate President Trump on Fox News. It would have been a massacre. They would have had to pull her out the way they pulled out Biden. It's all they can do to keep this going, to keep this charade alive.
Talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard.
She keeps talking about a border security bill, but this bill was not meant to secure the border. It never was. Never will be. It was meant to let all of these people that are here to legalize them, to make them a part of this country. And we don't know who they are, and that's not fair to the people that are coming in here through the legal process either. They're not being vetted, and they're talking about terrorists, or worried about terrorists coming into this country, and the borders are open. Unless they are really monitoring what is going on, they just don't want us monitoring. They don't want the good people monitoring because they may be doing some bad things.
Hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery. For prisoners. For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
You're not a child, you're a man. So stop wearing so many layers to go outside and get the Bearskin Tactical Hoodie 4.0, the 10-pocket tactical micro fleece hoodie that blocks wind, repels rain, and regulates heat for incredible comfort wherever you are. Because the average hoodie made these days is weak, flimsy, and has one weird kangaroo pocket in the front. And listen, you're not a kangaroo, you're a man. Thousands of men around the world already love wearing the bearskin hoodie instead of their regular hoodies. Why? Because sure, your average hoodie provides decent insulation to keep you warm, but as soon as you go outside,
I will follow the law. And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition
Well,
surgeries
you know what? You got
happened
to take
during
responsible for what
his
happened in your
presidency.
administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still
Or she just said
advocate
that you have to take responsibility for what happens in your administration, which goes back to what her border policy was, to what they did under the first administration with Biden. If they don't want to take responsibility for that, but they want Trump to take responsibility to it. They want to have the high ground. They want to act like, they want Trump to be this moral person, this great person. And if he's not, they want to just chop him up. But they don't want to do the same thing with them. They're not open to look at themselves the same way that they criticize President Trump. So when they say, well, it happened under your watch, everything that happened under Trump's watch, but then they don't want to talk about what happened under their watch. They've been in office for the last 4 years, and they're still blaming Donald Trump for everything. It's all about him. They're not willing to take any credit for all the stuff that they've done wrong. It's sad. It's I don't know. What's up, Rick? How's it going, man? I'll keep going here. Let me go back. Screen share. Whew. Tough to watch, but I've made it 12 minutes through. It's pretty good.
for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment
I will
surgeries?
follow the law, just
Oh.
as I
Well, you have a
think
say
Donald
in
Trump would
this.
say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think it's real. He spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas,
I mean, she is saying exactly what her plan is. Her plan is no plan. Over and over, we see this where they will accuse Trump of these things that they are doing. It's like that person, that criminal that gets caught, and they start accusing everybody else of it. They are the victim. It's this other person. If we just get rid of him, I'm not the one. I didn't do it. You've been there. You were in office here. You were in the government here for the last 4 years. And I understand what she's doing because she's backed into this corner. She has no choice. She has to do this. She has to play these games. The problem is that people see through this, and they are seeing who she really is. They know who Trump is. He'll tell you. You can go and watch any of his live speeches out there. What makes her speeches so different and why there may be a little more focus on hers because she doesn't do them that much, if at all. And if she does, it's highly scripted. And even this one, she was trying to keep Brett Baer on point, on script. She probably was happy to have an interviewer who was a man and not a woman. I'm just guessing on that, but I just feel like if it was a woman asking her the same question, she'd have to be a little more nicer. But because it's a man, she can also use that too. Wow, the man is coming down, and not only that, it's a white man too. So the white man is talking all this stuff, and he's asking me these hard questions, and trying to trip me up. It's like Trump goes through that every single day in the media, even when they don't ask him. They just, the stuff that they write, all the things that they do, all of the hatred that is geared towards Trump. And they all try to act like he's the hateful one, as if he's sitting there writing all of these news articles and bashing him and all this stuff. And all Trump comes out and he defends himself. He defends his points. He defends his views. This lady cannot do it because her views are not making sense, and they're not common sense. And they have nothing to do with the Kennedy Democrat Party at all. They have nothing to do with Donald Trump. They have nothing to do with people who are looking at Kennedy and looking at Trump and saying, wow, these are great leaders here. How are you going to stand next to them? What makes you on that level? She just can't get there. She can't answer it. She can't get there. I don't think she ever will, but the media is trying. They are really pushing her. The games, the things that they are doing to try to get her as the next president. From my view, from what I see, it just looks like they're just trying to get her in there, and they don't care what happens after that. Then 4 years later, they'll worry about that, but they really want to get her in there. That's what she said. Rick says they never have a plan. None of them. They just do what they are told. I would say could be true, but I don't believe that with these two gentlemen here. And I've got some strong arguments with that. And it's part of the reason why I'm actually writing this book too, is for people with an open mind who may think that too. And let me give you some reasons why Kennedy and Trump are a pretty good, solid team. And they're not only best for this country, best for business, as Triple H would say, not only best for this country, but best for this whole planet, the way this planet is going. Rick also says Trump should have been in the WWE. He knows entertainment sells and can cut one hell of a promo. Well, he was in the WWE several times. Not only was he, obviously, he hosted and sat front row at WrestleMania 4 and WrestleMania 5, but later on, he actually hosted Raw a couple times and was a part of one of the big WrestleMania storylines with Vince McMahon, which was really good. I thought it was really good. And this was during Trump's Apprentice show days. I've never seen Trump's show, never seen the TV show, but I hear it's, a lot of people like it. But yeah, he can cut a promo. He can really cut a promo. And he's very good at it. And he can do it on a consistent basis. And if you haven't seen Trump's, it's like a 1-hour clip. It's all about finance. It's all about our economy, and he's being grilled by the editor of Bloomberg. That interview is really good. He really goes after the person who is actually interviewing him, and Trump just manhandles him. I could do a whole, I was actually going to do tonight's show on that, and then Kamala Harris, this was like, wow, this is even better. This is even better. We can always go back to Trump stuff. We know. And the dude is hilarious. He's funny. But yes, not only was he in the WWE, President Donald J. Trump is a WWE Hall of Famer. Something Kamala Harris will never be, especially with that face. That ain't going to work. That just ain't going to work, young lady.
At $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote.
It's the biggest issues that affect the American people is that border. It has to be the border. And those, what did Brett Baer say? Over the plus 90 executive orders that Biden undid, that Trump put in place, that helped. And a lot of those were to secure our border. When they undid that, look at what happened. So that's where the numbers and that's where the stats are really going to stand the test of time. Because what she's saying here is what people who just want to believe her, that hate Trump, they're going to repeat the same thing. And at some point, they're going to realize that these are just talking points and the facts do not line up. And the way that the people who are able to explain that to them, the way that they come off to them, may actually help them decide if they want to jump on the Trump train too, or if, they're dealing with somebody who is just a very rude person because of how they say it. You may have all of the right facts about President Trump, but sometimes it's how you say it. And that's true with anything, right? And I think Kamala Harris, I think she's learning that. She's figuring that out. It's how you say it. She's going to come away from this better off, I think. But it just, I think she's going to realize I should have done this a long time ago to get this out of the way. Or the game is over. It's all over. And this is who she is. And there ain't no getting better. This ain't going to get better. This train is going to get worse. Only one way to find out. We're going to ride the crazy train, or are you going to ride the Trump train?
And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
On
it was
plans for
different,
the
but
American
we'll
people,
move on.
I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about.
She's talking about small businesses. And I actually sent Rick this clip the other day. But there's some really good stuff about small businesses. Guess who was in charge of Trump's small business in his cabinet? He put Linda McMahon, the wife of Vince McMahon, the owner of the WWE. So she's the owner too, co-owner of the WWE, in charge of a committee on small business, the person who was to look over small businesses during those 4 years, and she did a great job. And the way that he was talking about Linda McMahon a couple of days ago makes me think when Trump gets back into office, Linda is going to get another cabinet spot, and probably not just to focus on the small businesses are really hurting. And whatever she did in 2016, 2017, 2018, because she was only there for Trump's first 2 years, I think. But whatever Linda McMahon did in those 2 years, and she's been there, done it, she could do it again. So it's the business side. She's really good at that side. And when you think of the WWE, obviously you don't think of a small business, but they were a small business when they started out. And there were times where the business was going to go down. That was later on, et cetera, et cetera. But she knows how to take a small business, a wrestling company, and make it into what it is now. Look at where the WWE is now. So, and all these companies, a lot of them start out as small businesses, but do we want them to stay as a small business, or do we want them to grow and flourish and move on from being a small business and leave the door open for other small businesses? But I'm very curious to see when Trump gets back into office in 2025, on January 20th, 2025, if my dates are correct. In those first weeks, I believe he's going to find a place for Linda McMahon. Linda McMahon, yeah, she's awesome. She really is. Maybe I mispronounced her name. Okay, let me go back to another version of the Ugandan giant, Kamala, the wrestler. This is Kamala Harris.
Taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as president of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness.
Oh, I love this part
and
here.
the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want
to turn the page. This is great. This is exactly what we're talking about. To turn the page. They're still trying to turn the page from Trump because they were never to get over. They have never gotten over that hurdle because they have never found anything better. They have never done anything better than what Trump did. But they want to act like Trump is the one. Trump is the bad guy. All this stuff, all this bad stuff is happening to Trump. Trump is in charge of Congress all of a sudden, which, I thought the vice president was supposed to be in charge of the Senate. It was the deciding vote for the Senate, right? That's what the vice president does. One of the tasks that the vice president could, would, and should do. Not what this vice president has done, not what Kamala Harris has done. But they're treating Trump like he's the president, like he's still in office. There's 4 years later, they're still trying to turn that page because nobody wants their page. Nobody wants the BS that they are selling. I shouldn't say nobody. I can only speak for myself. Really. But I find it hard to believe that there are people, a lot of people that really are buying what she's selling. Maybe they are. I don't know. What do I know? I like Kennedy and Trump. What could I possibly know about any of this stuff?
A president who has a plan for the future.
She keeps talking about Trump doesn't have a plan. She's not focusing on what is your plan. Trump has a plan. We know his plan. You could go watch his rallies, any of his speeches. He's been doing them. I mean, he's been doing some crazy amount of speeches. I can't even keep up. There's a few speeches from Trump I haven't even been able to watch. But she keeps saying he doesn't have a plan. This is your opportunity to tell people your plan.
And a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires.
There we go. Giving to the rich. This has been a Democrat talking point. The Republicans just want to have tax cuts for the rich. And then the Republican talking point will be, well, the Democrats just want to socialism and they just want to give everything. They want to take our money and give it to these other people who are too lazy to get their own job, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what makes Trump and Kennedy different is they don't go there. But this lady is still stuck there. She's still stuck in that era that we want to get way past that era where we are just talking about Democrats do this, Republicans do that. You have the two most popular Democrat and Republican right now on the stage together, shaking hands, joining forces, going out there. There's going to be a town hall with Kennedy and Trump coming up soon. It got postponed for several reasons, but it is going to happen. I cannot wait to cover that because we have not seen Kennedy and Trump together on the same stage since August 23rd. 2024, and I'm looking forward to seeing that happen. And guess who else is going to be there? Tulsi Gabbard's going to be there, and who knows? But the thing with these town halls, I don't like when they're like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 60. Like a town hall, it's got to be like 3 hours, and Trump can do 3 hours. He can just go on for 3 hours by himself. So there's no reason why these town halls should not be 2 hours or 3 hours long. And let the people ask questions. Let them ask a lot of questions. And some of these town halls are just kind of like that wasn't a town hall. That was like somebody interviewed Trump or they interviewed Kennedy and somebody got a couple questions in. Or they get to what's even worse is when they call it a town hall and they end the show without one question being asked, or maybe one or two questions, and then off air they get to ask a ton of other questions after that. So town hall should be 2-3 hours. That's my view on it.
Corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
She's riding with Biden. That's how you know she's black.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be.
Even though we were told she's riding with Biden, and we were told that, she's there, she's right along with him. She's the vice president. So what makes them so different? And then at the same time, what is so bad about Mike Pence not agreeing with Trump? See, again, it's the double standard, where it's okay for her and Biden to disagree, to be on separate pages, but it's not okay for Trump and Mike Pence to be on separate pages, and it's not okay for President Trump and J.D. Vance to have different views on different things. They just can't have it both ways, and people see through this, I think.
One change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president,
you would do differently?
I mean, that would be one change in terms of.
this.
But also, I think it's important to say with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
This is great. This is awesome. I gotta go full screen for this one. Let's see. Yeah, this is great. This is the real question right here. She's sweating. Only 14 minutes in. 14 minutes. The 26 minutes. That's all she can take from Fox News.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
Let me be very clear.
every
Let me be very clear. That's a huge talking point. Guess who else used to say, let me be very clear, folks? Joe Biden. She's even sounding like Joe Biden. It's all the same talking points. And they sound like Clinton. And they sound like the last one. They sound like Barack Obama. They all sound the same. It's like they're all reading from the same script, pandering to the same audience. Now, some of those people, I believe, there are good-hearted people that call themselves Democrats, that call themselves Republicans, call themselves independents. There are good-hearted people that could be tricked by things like this. And they may say the same thing about me. I'm being tricked by Trump, and I can't believe you support this guy and this and that. But it's just, from my point of view, it's very, very strange the way that Kamala Harris is acting, where it's just and we've heard these talking points for so long. And I think that was something that separated Trump from all these people. The matrix got a little ripple. It got broken just a little bit. There was an infection here in this system as this thing was steamrolling. Because once they got Barack Obama in, it was steamrolling. You could see it. The police state was in full force. Everything was moving at this rapid speed towards darkness. Trump gets in, and there's a brief light there, and then they call it darkness. And they want to act like these were the most difficult times under Trump. But if you look what happened under Trump in those 4 years, where is the darkness? Where are the bad things? Where is this crisis they keep talking about? World War III, all these bad things. Look at all the good things that President Trump did. All the things that they said that could not be done, and he did them. How to deal with these other countries, how to talk to other countries, how to make sure we don't get to World War III. We don't get involved in new wars. The approach was very, very different. And I think what Trump did in those 4 years is going to be a big blueprint for the future. And I also believe you have a future president right here in RFK Jr. His story is not done. It's not done. But this is a big move towards that. If Kennedy can get in there as the director of the Human Health Services, something like that, in a high-profile spot to help change the health system in this country, to see what can we do, because what happens in the health country, in the health field in this country, will set a new standard for all these other countries, including Canada, including all these other places too. But it will show that there may be another way. The health system we have right now is broken. The healthcare system is a big, big deal. And you need somebody in there like Kennedy who can get things done. Because it's not just about policies, laws, getting rid of pharmaceutical drugs. It's not just about that. It's about healthy living. Reminding people the good food and banning these bad food, putting the taxes, putting things that are so high, making it not profitable to make bad food, making it very profitable to make good food and to sell good food, local food, things like that. And I do believe Kennedy can get those things done. He is an environmentalist. He is a lawyer. He's a litigator. He's taken on Monsanto and won. He can get this job done. This is the big, big job. The health of our nation. Once we start eating healthy, and once we're not being censored from all of these, what they call alternatives, which shouldn't be alternatives. These are not health alternatives. This is just healthy living. And there's so many simple things that we could do that they're not doing because it's not profitable. So we need to make healthy living profitable. and make growing food in the back of your yard and selling it to your neighbor, or just posting outside of your house, if you make that profitable, that's going to be a good thing. So there's ways to do it, and there's always going to be people that are going to false flag that and sabotage that and purposely try to sell you bad food on the side of the road, so that the government will be forced to pass laws saying that you can't do that, or you have to pass this regulation because these one or two people sold you bad food, not knowing that they probably did that purposely in order to make sure that good local people could not just go and sell good food to their neighbor. If their neighbor needed, some good food, if something happens to them, there's a libel issue with lawsuits, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things that you can do, but you need somebody like RFK Jr. in the right spot in order to get that done. That's what I think. Rick says, here's a question, devil's advocate. What do you feel Trump did wrong or could have done much better? It would have to be putting in the wrong people. And I think that is Trump's biggest fault. And that is his biggest thing that he's also said too, putting in the wrong people. Because remember, he had Kennedy in there in 2016, 2017. He was working with Kennedy. And then Kennedy got pushed out by people like Bill Gates, like Dr. Fauci, like Dr. Birx, like really bad people. And then you have even Trump's vice president, Mike Pence, a guy that turned on him later. There were so many people that turned on Trump, actually, Henry Kissinger wanted a spot in Trump's campaign and everything. Trump was friends with Henry Kissinger before he got in office, but it really took Trump probably 3 years to really figure out that the swamp that he was trying to get rid of, that a lot of that was the people that he had actually surrounded himself with. I think that was his biggest thing. And I think that's what he can do better. And that's why, and I believe when he's on stage with guys like RFK Jr., to me, that shows he understands I messed up. I should not have taken Dr. Fauci. You should not have done that. And Trump will get a lot of heat for Dr. Fauci. But if you really look at it, which is another book I've set aside, but if you really look at it, Trump had Dr. Fauci out there. But then something happened, something changed. And remember, this was an election year too. So it was a very quick thing where Trump was having Fauci out there. And then all of a sudden you didn't see Dr. Fauci with Trump. You didn't see Dr. Birx with Trump. And then Trump gets COVID. They want him to wear that mask, right? They want him to do all of those things that you would see Biden later do. So it was very, very strange. But I think that is the biggest thing. The lockdown, I don't really blame Trump that much for the lockdowns, because for two reasons. The first one is Trump was one of the first people that I ever heard that said we need to get the country reopened. And this is the president saying that. If Biden would have said we need to reopen it, they probably have been like, okay, cool, let's do it. So Biden saying it, because it was Trump saying it. Well, we can't do that. We can't reopen it. Trump wanted within 3 weeks, by April of 2024, I'm sorry, of 2020, April 2020, Trump was out there saying we need to reopen this country. We got to get this country working. And so he never gets credit for that either. They always act like Trump was saying you got to take the shot. He was not out there saying that. He was not out there saying, he was making it for the states that wanted all of these things. The states were coming to him saying, we need this, we need that. And he was giving it to them. But there was never any forced vaccinations under Trump. All that came after Biden got in office. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Fauci shows back up. And Fauci is out there saying, you got to wear 2 masks, wear 3 masks. I mean, it got really, really crazy after Trump left. It was like they just had to get him out. He was the one who was standing in their way. So anyways, that's what I think Trump could have done much better, is putting the right people in office, putting the right people in those spots. And remember, Trump was not a politician either. And he'd never been to the White House either. So he's learning on the fly in 2017 as he's going here. And I think for that, he did a pretty good job. But that's just me. That is just me. And, Compare that to Kamala Harris, I guess.
A new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from
That's
the
crazy.
Republicans
It's
or
crazy that she says that because she's been in office. She's been in politics definitely longer than President Trump has. So she could say that. But I believe she was a senator before President Trump got in there in 2016. I could be wrong. Maybe she started at the same time. But they're on the same page. I mean, they're not too far off. But she's been in politics. It's just crazy. She hasn't been in business is the problem. Trump has the business record. And he's been there. He is a successful businessman, no matter how much they try to act like he's not. You can clearly look at Trump's assets and look at all the stuff and see that he is a successful businessman. He's not blinking at the $450 million that they're trying to sue him for. He's not blinking at that stuff. It's not slowing him down. It's not making him say, all right, you know what? Maybe I'll just go home and be with my family now. He's not doing that. Even after taking a bullet. How much? You can't do much more than that and take a bullet for the country. Not just for the country either, for the whole world. Hey, thank you, man. That was a great question. I think that was a great question. Very, very important question. Not devil. I don't like the term devil's advocate, but I understand what you're saying. Because you're not an advocate for the devil. I think you're a very good person there. But I understand what you mean. And thank you for that question. If you got any more, keep them coming. If you got any questions for her, she's just going to tell you she comes from a middle-class family, so don't worry about it. And she's Black, so that's good too.
supporting me who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I'm.
Oh, this is another great thing too, how she always likes to talk about the Republicans that are backing her and everything. This is Dick Cheney's daughter. These are the people that Trump was trying to get far away from. They don't like Trump, and there's a reason. But these are the same swamp characters, the same people, the Republicans that don't like Trump, usually like George Bush Jr. They're okay with the war. They're okay with all this stuff. Trump came out and said, we got to end these wars. We got to close the border, end these wars. And it's like, oh, how is that bad? Like the Democrats should be all over that. At least, back in when I was going to trying to be a part of this whole process, this whole political process, and watching the whole Occupy movement and the Democrats and the anti-war. And it makes sense. Why not be anti-war? And Kennedy talks about that too. How are the Democrat Party, how did they become the party of war? And the Republicans are now the party of anti-war, of no wars. It's just, again, it shows this is not about Democrats. It's not about Republicans. It's about good people, bad people. The problem is there's so much happening in our own lives. They're throwing so much at us that it's nearly impossible, if not impossible, to keep up with everything. You can't keep up with everything, but this is a good moment in time here.
I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing.
Bring it.
Addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
The idea from the beginning was just to have a place to come and hang out that's comfortable for everyone, and people wanted to come and relax and get away from the cities.
I think it's just rustic, but it just has so much character in this building.
Every little thing that we've added detail-wise to it just brings about a character of, yeah, you feel like you're in a barn, but it's also just homey and you just feel cozy in here. It's a big space, but it feels like you're at home when you're in here. So in the kitchen, we had some inspiration.
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam
That
Vice
is
President, more than
turning the page.
70% of people
That is
tell
about turning the
pollsters-
page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than
People are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the
since-
person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking
I actually
about.
don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become,
power.
but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him
Madam
instead
Vice
of
President,
the American people.
if
People
that's the
are
case,
tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's
if
not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a
So
cakewalk
are they misguided?
for
The
anyone.
50.
Wow. I mean, she's really just belittling him. It's not supposed to be easy. Wow. That's ridiculous. She's not really answering it, but this again, would she talk like this to a woman? I don't know. Maybe.
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's
Who
not
said
supposed to-
it was supposed to be easy? I mean, just the way she's talking, so pandering. This is just not a person who can relate to the common man. I don't know.
And people
If that's the
are
case,
tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
so
if-
creepy.
It's supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a
So are
cakewalk.
they
It's so crazy. It has nothing to do with the question that he asked. He didn't say anything about it's supposed to be easy or not. She cannot answer the questions. Wow. This would probably be the only interview I could really watch with her. The sound bites are bad enough.
Misguided, the
anyone.
50%?
Listen,
Are
let
they
me-
stupid? What
Oh
is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the
course.
American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies,
She would never say that. Doesn't mean she doesn't think that or believe it. She just never say it.
he's the one who tends to demean and belittle.
She always deflects. It always goes back to Donald Trump, right? Well, no, I don't do that. He does that. I don't do that. Donald Trump does that. She's still pandering to that same crowd that thinks that Donald Trump is a sexist, is a racist, doesn't like women. She's still there in 2016. It's over.
And diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question.
That's so weird. There's nowhere you're going to find where Trump is saying we're going to turn the military against the American people. It's all lies. It's all lies. And people are going to see through that. All they have to do is just look at it. Where did Trump say that? What are they sourcing? They're just going to throw down talking points and just try to trick people. And I don't like when they're just trying to trick people. And I don't like people being tricked. I know people don't like it. Once they realize they've been tricked, they get pretty pissed off too.
To the former president today, Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
But I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
He was asked.
That's not what we just showed, because you're not going to find those clips. She knows that. You are a nasty woman.
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to
that
you,
was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he's talked about turning.
I love when they say, here is the bottom line. They've got the bottom line. You don't know what you're talking about. If you think anything different than what they're saying or what they want to pitch to you, you don't know what you're talking about. It's a marketing ploy. They're marketing something to you and telling you this is the best product out there. Our product is the best product out there. That's all it is. And when you say maybe there's other products, maybe it's not. No, there's, they never answer the question. This is great. How much more of this? Because I want to get to some of Trump. Okay, 6 minutes, 7 minutes.
Turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy.
They always get, Joe Biden would do the same thing too. They would have to get angry. They have to get angry because they want you to be angry. And then they want to talk about hate. They want to talk about we shouldn't hate. Donald Trump is the source of all the hate. Look how angry they are. Look at the way that they talk and they pander and they talk down. And then look at the way that Trump talks to you. You can see a big, big difference if you're looking. Come on, babe. Okay, then. Weird. Let me go refresh. Weird timing. Okay. Just a few more minutes of this young lady.
And you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree.
Maybe he talked about going after people for peaceful protests. I've never heard Trump say anything. We're going to go after people for peaceful protest. The problem is what they call a peaceful protest sometimes is not a peaceful protest. I think that's the problem. She wants the BLM. When the BLM goes out there and burns down their neighborhood, they're calling that a peaceful protest. Trump isn't. So Trump is the bad guy, not the people that are doing the looting and the rioting and all that. No, it's all about Trump. It's all about getting Trump out. And I think people are sick of that. They're sick of that.
Agree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the president.
It's a republic, a Republican, a democratic republic, whatever you want to call it. But if she understands that, then she should understand that means there's freedom here. There's freedom here, and you have to respect the will of the people, not force it down people's throats, like what she's trying to do. Basically, they're trying to burn like I think Kennedy said this. They're trying to burn everything down in order to save it, and I think Kennedy puts it very well right there.
President of the United States in the United States of America should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying,
who is a horrible person, by the way,
what Mark Milley has said.
Mark Milley is another horrible person, by the way, about
Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way. Yes.
They like this. They like to call Trump a threat, but then they're like, "Oh yeah, well, how big of a threat could he possibly be? How big of a threat could Donald Trump possibly be to the future of this nation?" We have people like that running around, and then they want to say, "Oh, when Trump talks about people, that's bad, but when they talk about him, that's okay." So it's like they should be able to say whatever they want about Trump, but he can't respond to what they say. And if he does, they're just going to focus on the things that he says. That's it.
Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump. You call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
If you're not making $158,000 per year, but you'd like to, I strongly encourage you to start a bookkeeping business. That's right. If you're willing to learn how to use a free program.
Joe Biden,
I love
have
this
watched
question.
from the Oval Office to the situation.
On his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first... He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room. And he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president.
So they keep saying that he's dangerous. He's dangerous. His former vice president is another one of those old school swamp creatures. These are rhinos. And I mean, I guess you could say, is Trump the rhino because he's Republican in name only, or are these guys rhinos? I guess it depends on how invested you are in the Republican Party, and that it's a traditional thing. How far back does it go, et cetera, et cetera. So again, we don't want to get too wrapped up in the Republican versus Democrat thing. I'm going to go and see what's going on with Eric Spitfire Wilkinson. Right now, he is live and I am going to go check them out, see what's going on. So I want to say God bless you all. And I think that's enough. That's probably all that I can handle from Kamala Harris. You get the idea. It was fun. God bless you all. And until next time, remember, Jesus loves you. And so do I, my friends. Have a good one.